Are you someone who's interested in higher education as a potential career path? Or are you a first-generation college student who's having to navigate this journey and a little bit nervous about it? Well, tune in to today's conversation. We're going to be meeting with Victoria Lopez-Herrera, a dear friend of mine who's now worked for 25 years in higher education. And she has some great insight that I think will be very helpful for you if you're in either of those categories. So welcome to Moments That Matter, Momentos que Marcan. Welcome to the show. Today we have Victoria Lopez-Herrera. She's a self-described compassionate disruptor. She has a passion for the empowerment of women, social justice issues, and advocacy for underrepresented students, which has guided her work in higher education for over 25 years. Now, she has served in administrative capacities at UT San Antonio, Columbia University, the New School, Cornell University, and Texas State in San Marcos, where she earned her bachelor's and her master's degree. She currently serves on the board of Gamma Phi Beta Sorority and is the Director of Strategy and Impact Initiatives for NASPA, the Student Affairs Administration in Higher Education. Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have this conversation. You know, as I was thinking about what this podcast could be and who should be guests that come and share their stories with us, you were at the top of my list. For those of us in the audience that are listening and tuning in, you know, the podcast is called Moments That Matter. And so when I thought about that, Momentos que Marcan, one of the moments that really mattered between my story and Victoria's story is she's actually the person who helped get my life started in New York. It's going to be 22 years, if you can believe it, Victoria, that I came to New York for the first time. I was part of the UN General Assembly that year in 2004. And I came to spend a week here as a part of that. And in that week, I got to stay with Victoria and her family. And it just was very impactful, so much so that on my flight back to Houston, I cried because I felt like this is where I needed to be. And then Victoria and I had this conversation about, I really want to be there. And she said, you can come and stay with me. You can sleep on my couch. And the rest is history, because a year later, I moved with a one-way ticket to New York and started this wonderful journey. And if it wasn't for her and her not only like excitement and confidence, I don't think I would have made that move. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being, you know, not only that friend, but that cheerleader for me. It meant a lot.
Of course.
And as
too, so.
and as I think about that, and that story, right, and sort of what my journey has been and become, I think about your story. So tell us a little bit about what you do right now and why you've been doing this for so long.
So I currently work for the Professional Association, NASPA, for administrators in higher education. And what I do is the consulting arm of the association. So we will visit campuses and do external program reviews for departments that fall within the traditional division of student affairs. So I get to travel around the country and meet awesome people to learn about what is going awesome in departments, as well as where are there opportunities for growth. I get to meet great colleagues. We bring in subject matter experts to travel along with me. So that's been a great deal of fun. And it's given me a bigger, broader perspective on higher education and deeper understanding of the different departments. My history has particularly been within several specific areas of student affairs and higher education. Most recently at UT San Antonio in collegiate recreation. I was there for almost 13 years. And then prior to that, working with fraternity and sorority life and residential life at Columbia University, as well as residential life at the New School, as well as Cornell. And then, of course, going back to where we met at Texas State. And it really was back then as an undergraduate when I was like, I don't want to do what I studied. I'm graduating with this degree and I don't want to do this job. So thinking about, right, like, what was it that really got me excited about being in college and those connections? It really was around student organizations, and particularly identity-based student organizations that came out of multicultural student affairs. And, you know, those connections is what kept me at school. helped me persist. I was able to build those connections and relationships, not only with administrators, but with also fellow college students, just to help me along the way and make sure, because I'm a first generation college student. My parents didn't know. They
Yeah.
had no idea how to register for classes, how to apply for financial aid. Like, I made the dean's list and I'm excited. And they're like, oh, Miha, that's great, right? Like, that's supposed to be good, right? I was like, yeah, yes. So, like, it's one thing is about part of it is access and then that persistence. So, for me, from the very jump, it was about getting access to education and then persisting because I
Mm,
was told very early on and in high school that I wouldn't go to college. That wasn't for me. That's not something that I could do. So
mm,
I know that we are not the only ones who have, I'm not the only one who's received that message. I know we are not the only ones who have experienced the first generation college student experience. And there are many who are continuing to access education for the very first time in their family today. And so that is for me where it is rooted at. How do I provide access and then opportunities for connection, sense of belonging, and persistence through graduation?
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure a lot of the people that are listening right now can totally relate to that. And it's so interesting, right? How some of us that have this experience and walk through life in these moments have had people that have, not supported us, but yet here we are, right? Proving them wrong. One of the things that I think will be interesting for our listeners to hear from you is you've not only done this, at Texas State, you did this at Columbia, at Cornell, where sometimes those institutions are not built for people that come from where we come from or that look like us. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience working there and the students that you were engaged with?
Cornell for me was like the big aha pivotal moment about the key to the future, the key to your success is knowledge and access to education. And I remember there were students from the Valley that were there for the first, they had never gotten on a plane before. They got into Cornell. They were there in upstate New York in the middle of, I mean, Ithaca is in a very small place. And, it was navigating that for them. But what they learned as just life lessons of leaving where they had known for home to be to a new
Mm,
place and then having access to amazing minds and resources and people who have lived completely different lives from them showed me the importance of education and access to those types of institutions because the doors open to education regardless of what institution you go to. If you're going to go whatever it is, when you go to an elite institution, an Ivy League institution, those doors are bigger and wider and broader than other places. And to me, that demonstrated for me, like, okay, if we can get there and we can expose this to more students that maybe have similar backgrounds to me or similar stories or lived experiences, we're going to help make their lives just more enriched. And they will also continue to be the future leaders of the world. So I saw a lot of students from a variety of backgrounds. Some of them went to boarding school and this was just their life. This is what I was supposed to do next. And again, others who were first were
mm,
came from a very low socioeconomic background and still managed to succeed in these spaces. They had other barriers, right? They did not have the social capital or the social nuances, lived experiences to help them navigate these places easily. They still struggled. But again, having other folks on campus who were there to support them and be like, I see you. I see you. I know what you're going through. Let me help you. Let me help lift you up. Let's help remove some of these barriers, help you navigate through some of these different situations to make it through. So what's great about, I think some of the Ivies in particular is they also now are in a place where they see if we open access. So one of the biggest barriers is price. So if we open access in particular to students who come from a lower SES, then we remove that barrier. And so I really appreciate that those institutions are doing that and providing those opportunities for students who do perform well, who are want to learn, who are engaged in the world and want to make a difference in the world around them. And then the institution itself is able to support them in that way.
as you look back at your journey in institutions like that, were there ever moments that were difficult that made you want to walk away? And if they were difficult, what about it kept you there?
Mhm. I think that when in some of these institutions, like you said, they were not built for people like us. So the history of higher education is very much built on white elite male privilege. And if you did not fit that box, you did not belong. It wasn't built for you. So there are definitely times and instances and incidents where racial and gender based violence, just negative behaviors, were
Mm,
targeted toward myself or towards students, and seeing students hurt, and seeing students like on top of everything, on top of all I had to do to get here, this is what I'm met with once I get here.
hmm
And so it was very disheartening and like, what am I doing? Like, I'm lifting up and continuing to be part of the system. But ultimately, it's like, but now I'm part of the system, right? Now I know, right? Now that I'm in, I know, and I can now make a difference from within, right? So it's like getting there and getting in there and then working it from the inside and staying. And that's really what has kept me, of like, okay, I understand the system now. You don't understand the system. And there are some folks who aren't necessarily the best, or they are not displaying the best human behaviors at this time. They too have an opportunity to grow and learn and change too. And I can be a catalyst for that. I can be an agent. I can be an advocate for that change. So that's what kept me, around. Again, at the core of it was I want to see those students stay. I want to help them because guess what? What they're experiencing now on campus with this ugliness and whatever is happening is going to happen outside.
mm
When they leave in the world, it's going to happen again. So how can I help them build their own personal resilience, tactics, strategies for navigating the world that they are now a part of?
hmm And when you think about being that for them, what did you have to be for yourself in those moments? Because not only were you seeing them experience it, but you were experiencing it yourself.
Definitely relying on other networks, other colleagues that may have had similar experiences. I think when I think back in particular to some of the instances and institutions where it did happen, finding people like me
Mm,
that were also navigating similar types of situations that I could turn to, but also doing some internal work too, right? Like, what is my identity? What is my own personal growth, and how do I show up to be able to best support students as well as other colleagues who are also struggling through it? So it really is about that support network of folks who exist. And again, in higher education, there ain't a whole lot of us. So it was easy to figure out and identify through, especially through professional associations, right? Like who was part of other campuses across the country that could help with that.
I was just going to say, was there a mentor or a sponsor within the institutions that you were with that were critical during those phases and those moments?
I think there were a number of folks that were colleagues, and I think back to my time at Columbia. The director at the time, she was pretty helpful in really trying to help understand the nuances and political landscape of institutions like Columbia, like Cornell, um, that were, it's just unique. It's very unique. And having folks who have done it before and have been in it to help you kind of just frame what you're experiencing and help you navigate through it and ask great questions, is has been helpful. But also parallel to that, what I would say is when I was at Columbia as a fraternity and sorority advisor, as a full-time professional, that is when I joined Gamma Phi Beta. And since joining Gamma Phi Beta, I would say parallel to that, I had other colleagues that were in higher education that are also Gamma Phi Betas that I could then turn to, women that I admired,
Mm.
women that supported me, that could be a sounding board, and help me navigate different situations or nuances of the field. And it really was like that group, like again another door that was opened for me joining Gamma Phi Beta and having women across the country that I could easily access and learn from and be challenged from, and help me along the way.
That's beautiful. I love it whenever you get, people that are like-minded that come together and no matter what the background is, that they're able to support each other. As you think about your early days in higher education and where you're at now, what has changed about how you show up, if anything?
I would say that I have I definitely show up differently now. I think early on in my career, I was very brave, and I would say green as far as a professional and understanding. Like I grew up in my space with my people, not homogenous, but comfortable environment of people who looked like me, who had similar lived experiences like me, those kinds of things. And then moving to situations or other areas where I was the only one. When I became the only one, it was very different. And I was used to the way that things ran, right? The way that I talked, the way that I interacted with folks. But then, of course, as I began to get new experiences and work with diverse groups of people,
Hmm.
the way that I showed up and the way that I spoke didn't always land well on folks.
Okay.
Um, so, like, as a Latina, I would say, like, one of the stereotypes is like, we show up pretty spicy. And I can, my voice carries. It's who I am. I'm confident. I can say things, but it doesn't always land well with folks in different groups. So now I think where I'm just more conscious of is when I am passionate, making sure that I just take a deep breath and step back, because in situations where there are difficult topics, or we're trying to challenge or change or brainstorm, folks respond to calmer um, and reactions, calmer interactions, those kinds of things. And as a Latina, the way that I grew up, we are passionate, we are loud. That's how we express our love. That's how we express when we are frustrated. That's how we express when we are angry. It's loud. It just is. So I think that's one of the things that I have to show up differently, in spaces in particular.
Hmm. I think a lot of people can identify with that. I always say that I come with the microphone included. I don't know how to whisper. So that's something that you definitely have to like not only be aware of, but really work on, especially when you're in spaces where that could come off as too aggressive or, misinterpreted. Um, now as you look at the definition of success, what does that mean to you in the present right now? What does success look like versus, before?
Early on, I thought that success meant position and title.
Mm,
And if I worked to be X, Y, or Z, vice president of, fill in the blank for that big title, that would mean that you were successful. And I think that as I have had new experiences, and have grown over my career, I think success is more about doing what makes you happy and where do you feel valued and where do you make the biggest impact. And by
mm,
that, and then it circles back to what makes you happy, right? So do I feel like I made a good impact on the lives of students, and the lives of my colleagues, and that fulfills me. So there's in I have felt that in the student affairs, it was always like, okay, where are you going to go next? What is the next one? Where are you going to get promoted to? Where are you going to move to? And some perhaps unconscious bias for those who chose not to pursue
mm,
X, Y, or Z position. And I'm now far more comfortable sharing and stating that I didn't want to be a vice president. I didn't want to be a dean. I didn't want to be the director. I didn't feel that with my time and where
mm,
my love was at and where I wanted to navigate my family, my personal life, and my professional life, what was best for me and where I could do my best work and where I could make the largest impact was where I was doing what I was doing. And now in my new role, again, I feel like it has evolved because I just have more experience, I have more knowledge, I can share it more. It's now it just looks different.
mm.
And again, I'm not the vice president. I am not the pres. I'm not up there in the hierarchy of these titles. I'm doing what I'm good at and what I
Mm.
find joy in. So to me, that is successful when it comes to on the professional side. And other people see that you are enjoying your work, you're doing well, and you're making an impact in the field.
Yeah. When you come into, being the first in your family to show up in these spaces, I personally have experienced things where I'm trying to balance what my family's expectations are and my expectations. Have you had any of those feelings as you've navigated different moments in your career, and how have you handled them?
I think that my parents were more of We don't know. So you tell us what's happening, what's going on. Is that good? Like, yes, this seems good. They've always been pretty open around just accepting my journey and what it is, and just being my cheerleaders, and very exciting, very
Mm,
excited about whatever the journey is that I have been on. I think that it's been more of, as I have grown, and perhaps others' experiences too, as you've gone to college, as you've gained new experiences and new knowledge, the way that you have thought and how you have acted and believed in growing up, and how your parents and your family have known you, like, I'll just say like 0 to 18, how they have experienced you as a person is very
mm,
different when you start on this other journey. And my experiences and my knowledge and my skills have also grown. So the way that I think, my political leanings, my approach to conflict, my the way that I express myself has changed. And so it's like, hmm, what's what's going on there? But there's also, I think, maybe even outside of just my immediate family, with other circles, I'll say, like within, when we think about circles and spheres of influence of, oh, now you're too good. Now
mm,
you're too good for us, or you think that you're better than. It's like, no, I don't. I just now, I've changed my mind. I'm looking at things differently now. I have actually perhaps just believed differently than I have in the past, and trying to explain like that shift between how they have known me to where I am
mm.
now, and how I might show up and speak differently, or on a particular topic.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times, with more access and more information and different viewpoints, we evolve as individuals. And so sometimes, you know, people that knew us at our early stages might feel like, well, what's happening right now? Why is that person different now? Especially if your friends and family all stayed in the same place and didn't leave. There's a different experience there for sure. As we think about any advice that you would give, whether it's our listeners or your younger self, what would that be?
Growth mindset, be open to the opportunities, open to thinking differently, and seeking out opportunities, just seeking out what comes your way. It's, for me, been around, again, being open, being creative, whatever the journey is. And like, I had something in my head when I would say, after graduate school, is like, this is what I want to do. Like I mentioned earlier, I would like to be a vice president. Yeah, no, that changed. And so, being open, just as I learned more, right? Like, what I thought I had, what I thought I wanted,
Yeah.
changed. And I think that's okay. And I have found that opening and embracing that change, and taking advantage of new opportunities, and being open to new opportunities, has really provided a wealth of knowledge and experiences, and has really connected me with some amazing people along the way. So, not only in my professional career, when I say parallel, and I'll mention again, Gamma Phi Beta, like, there are women that I'm with that we never would have crossed paths had it not been for Gamma Phi
Mm,
Beta. And they are CEOs, they're attorneys, they're doctors, they are full time parents. They have come from a different country. They have lived a completely different life from me. But because of my openness and my my desire to learn from them,
mm,
it has just made my professional life, I'll say, more fruitful, because they have pushed me. I have learned from them as well. I am gaining skills that, through my volunteer roles, that impact my professional roles, but also impact my family and how I show up as a mom and a partner, and friend. So, yeah, being open.
And I love what you said about, not getting stuck on some title, but thinking about what brings you joy, what helps you continue to grow, and leaning into that. Because sometimes when we're studying a certain topic in college, we're like, okay, I'm going to get out and this is what my aspiration is to be. And then as you're evolving, and experiencing, whether it's being in that space or seeing people that are in that job, you kind of form, a different opinion sometimes, or you lean more into it, right? I tell my clients all the time, right? Listen a lot to what your gut tells you and how you feel when you're in that moment. And when you're looking at whether it's a transition or a next step, like lean into what you're good at, but also what brings you joy, because that's very helpful in kind of telling us kind of where we belong. And not being afraid also, like you said, to step out of your comfort zone and learn from others, because that opens you up to sometimes a different way of thinking. um, this has been such a wonderful conversation to do a deeper dive into your why. One of the things that I like to share with my clients, as they're going through a transition, is to do a lot of self-reflection as well. Any last words before we say goodbye today to our listeners, that are interested in going into higher education, or pursuing their education at an Ivy League?
I think that one, if any interest in higher education, there are many different avenues. So folks who are looking to transition from maybe another field, it's in higher ed. You can find it in some way, shape, or form, not just out, even not just inside the classroom. I think often folks think like, oh, I have to go teach, I'm going to be a professor or an instructor. But there is a whole other world on the administrative side
Hmm.
that folks can step into, even outside of student affairs. That's my particular area of expertise. So accessing it again is it's just a matter of what are you interested in? There, I'm sure there is a place for you. And then as I think about our friends, I say my future friends and folks and family who will attend these elite institutions, is that number one, you got in, that means you belong there.
Mm-hmm.
Period. You belong there. And don't let anybody else tell you any differently that you don't belong. You will make it. There are people who are there who care about you, sincerely and genuinely care about you, want to see you succeed, regardless of feeling as though the institution or other places are telling you you cannot succeed or you don't belong here. So first and foremost, you deserve to be there, you belong there, and you can succeed and graduate.
Well, thank you, Victoria, for sharing your story with us, sharing your why, sharing those moments in your life and in your career that have mattered the most as you've been navigating. And a very special thank you for me for what you've meant in my life. I can't wait to see you in person, hopefully sooner than later.
Thank you.
That was a wonderful conversation with Victoria today. And I love that she spoke to those of you that are first generation college students out there navigating this experience for the first time. And I think that it was very important that she talked about leaning into your community and the support that they can give you at these institutions. There is a support system that exists out there for you. Just keep moving forward. The other thing that she talked about in today's conversation was being okay with your goal changing. You might be going in with this aspiration of, becoming an educator, and then leave wanting to be in political science or, in the political scene. It's okay for that to happen, and just making sure that along the journey that you're listening to what feels right for you. And the last piece that she offered us as advice was to be open to opportunity and where that journey could take you. And I think you don't have to be a first gen college student to understand that and for that to resonate. I think anybody who's out there that's tuning in, leave yourself open to opportunity and enjoy the journey on the way there, because you never know what might come next. Until next time, know your worth, trust your moment, and keep moving forward. I'm Sandra, and this has been Moments That Matter. Momentos que marcan.